Let's look at the translations for chapter 26. Exercitationes. Number 1. Ille dux nescivit se imperium protinus se scepturum esse. We have here the indirect statement. He did not know. That leader, this is nominative singular masculine, that leader did not know, third singular present perfect, active infinitive, did not know that he himself, accusative singular masculine, it's the reflexive, so it refers back to the subject, but it's also the accusative subject in indirect statement, that he would take on, here's your verb, the future active infinitive of the indirect statement, agreeing with the subject, say that he would straight away take power, or he would take power soon. That leader did not know that he would take power soon. Number 2. Quidem inquit imperium quondam petebant et liberos viros opprimere cupiebant. So this is there's two things going on. There's some petebant and cupiebant. Certain men, he said, and it's set off in quotation marks, so you know it's not the indirect statement. Certain men once sought power, accusative singular neuter, and they desired, third person plural, imperfect, active indicative. They desired to press down, to oppress free men. Number 3. Eodem die decimilia hostium abduce fidelissimo arversa ac pulsa sunt. Multi milites vulnerare caperant, et in agris jacebant. So, eodem die, I just know right away that means on the same day. Prepositional phrase, ablative of time when. On the same day, thousands, 10,000s of the enemy, this is genitive with the plural of thousands, they were aversa ec pulsa. Notice the Latin is not going to repeat this sunt. This sunt does go with both of them, but the Romans, they feel no need to repeat the words. The Romans prefer to leave out words. Their thought process is, why would I repeat it? It's just 3 words away. Can you not figure it out? That's the Romans' thought. So it's the third person plural, present perfect, passive indicative. So on that same day, thousands were turned away and driven out. Ab duce fidelissimo. No surprise to see the ablative of agent here with a passive voice by the very faithful leader. Okay, by the fidelissimo, the most faithful, very faithful leader. So on the same day, 10,000 enemy were turned away and repulsed and driven back by the very faithful leader. Many soldiers, whoops, this is the adjective, that's the noun. Many soldiers had received, notice that this is the pluperfect, had received wounds and were lying about in the fields. So notice here the sentence is in 2 parts, separated by this semicolon there in English. And the first part has 2 verbs, and the second part has 2 verbs. The first part is passive and has the ablative of agent. The second part is just shows the contrast between the pluperfect tense and the imperfect tense. Number 4. Mortae tyranni ferocis nuntiata, quisque se ad oratorem, potentissimum, magna spe vertit. Ablative absolute. With the death of the fierce tyrant having been announced, quisque vertit. There's your subject verb. Each turned. Each turned what? Himself, accusative singular masculine, ad oratorem potentissimum, to the very powerful, to the powerfulest, which we don't say in English, at least I don't think we do, to the powerfulest orator with great hope. Ablative singular feminine, with hope, it's your ablative of manner, the manner in which they turned. So with the death of the fierce tyrant having been announced, each turned himself to the very powerful orator with great hope. Number 5. Ridens scriptor illius fabulae sapiens aliquid iucundius de hinc narravit. Ridens. This is your present active participle, nominative, singular, masculine. How do you translate the present active participle? With an ing. Smiling, or is it laughing? The scriptor, the orator, genitive, singular, feminine. Both of these are. The fabulae is the noun of the, not only the scriptor, but the sapiens scriptor, the wise author of that story, narrated, third, singular, present, perfect, active indicative, something rather humorous, rather pleasing at that point, de hinc. Laughing, the wise writer of that fable, Ilius Fabulae, told something rather pleasing, de hinc, there. Number 6. His rebus auditis adolescentes geminae propter pecuniae cupiditatem studium literarum relinquit. Again, ablative absolute, with these things having been heard. I hope you're getting used to the ablative absolute at this point. The twin youths, the adolescentes Gemini, on account of the desire, propter goes all the way to the cupiditatem, and notice how the pecuniam, the genitive, singular, feminine, is nestled right in there. The desire of money. Because of the desire of money, the twin youths, what do? They abandon the study, accusative, singular, neuter, of literature. So with these things having been heard, the twin youths, because of their desire of money, abandon their desire for literature. Number 6. Reginae fortissima Carthagines, postea ostendet fidem semper esse sibi cariorum divitiis. The queen. What kind of queen? The fortissima. This is your superlative degree of the adjective. It's the nominative, singular, feminine. The queen, the very brave queen of Carthage. Postea, afterwards, ostendet, showed that. Now we're going to get an indirect statement. That her faith, accusative, this is the accusative subject in indirect statement. Faith was always cariorum, more dear to her, to herself. This is the reflexive, dative singular feminine, than riches. Ablative, plural, feminine. This is your ablative of comparison. You could have said her faith was dearer to her than quam divitias, faith was dearer than wealth, or the author of this sentence chose to put it in the ablative and leave it alone at that. Again, I don't know how often common that is. I'm going to guess ablative of comparison a little more common, not a whole lot perhaps. The very brave queen of Carthage afterwards showed that faith was more important to her, more dear to her than riches. Number 8. Negavit seum quam vidisse servam fideliorum quam hanc. He denied that. And now we're going to get the indirect statement. This is the accusative subject in indirect statement. That he had seen. This is the perfect active infinitive. Since negavit is in the past tense, by the use of the perfect active infinitive in the indirect statement, we throw it back further in the past. How do we do that in English? We use the word had. He denied that he had ever seen a slave, a servant, accusative singular feminine. Fideliorum, the comparative degree of the adjective, quam hanc, and this is your comparison using quam. You could have used hoc and just use the ablative of comparison. So we see in sentence number 7, using the ablative of comparison. Sentence 8, an example of using quam to achieve the exact same effect. Certainly in English, I truly don't know if there's a subtle difference in Latin that a Roman would pick up on. In English, we translate them exactly the same. He denied that he had ever seen a slave more faithful than this one. Number 9. Jucundior modus vitae hominibus nunc querendus est. Modus querendus est. This is your passive periphrastic. And this is just your the present tense, if you will, of the passive periphrastic. A more pleasing, the comparative degree of the adjective, comparative degree of the adjective. This is your nominative, singular masculine, agrees with the subject modus, of life, genitive, singular feminine. Now must be sought hominibus, your dative of agent with your passive periphrastic. A more pleasant way of life must now be sought by men. Credimus illos viginti liberos viros feminasque vitam quam iucundissimam agere. We believe that, expect the accusative subject and the infinitive verb, that those 20 free men and women, they agere. This is your present active infinitive. Use in the sentence, it is the verb and indirect statement, and it is the present tense, so it takes place at the same time as the main verb. We believe that they are living, or they are doing a life. And that's an idiom in Latin. We mean they're living their lives. We believe that those 20 free men and women are living a life quam iucundissimum. Quam plus the superlative equals as blank as possible, are living a life as pleasant as possible. As pleasing, pleasant as possible, pleasing as possible. We believe that those 20 free men and women are living a life as pleasant as possible. 11. Imperator centum milites fortissimus praese heri misit. The imperator sent, the emperor sent soldiers, 100 soldiers, 100 fortissimus milites, accusative plural masculine, very brave soldiers. Praise is just the prepositional phrase before himself. Heri is the adverb, yesterday. The emperor sent 100 very brave soldiers before himself yesterday. Or before him. Before him is fine. Number 12. Lux in illa casa non fuit clarissima, quod familia paucas fenestras pate fecerit. Fecerat is better. The light non fuit clarissima. The light in that house was not very bright. Quod, because the family had opened. This is your third singular, pluperfect, active indicative. Had opened windows, accusative plural feminine. Had opened few windows. The light in that house was not very bright because the family had opened few windows. 13. Amicos tristes excapit, ad mensam imitavit, et eis perfugium axolacium hic dedit. So, there's three verbs going on. He did this, and he did this. So let's take them one at a time. Take each sentence individually. He took out, excapit, he took out his friends. He took out his sad friends. He invited them, ad mesam, to dinner. And he gave them refuge and comfort. Hic is your subject. Postponed to the end, very nearly the end. So he did those three things. Not a lot, honestly, not a lot relevant to the topic of this chapter. Number 14. Quid is, what is sweeter than a very pleasant life? What is sweeter? This is your comparative degree of the adjective, so you know it's going to be eor, eus, some form of that. It's going to be accusative, singular, neuter, because it needs to modify the subject, which is nominative, singular, neuter. It's the interrogative pronoun. Then a very pleasant life. How do we want to do then? We'll do it two different ways. Quid, what is dulcior. What is sweeter than a very pleasant life? Life is pleasant is going to modify life, and a very pleasant is going to be superlative. So it's going to be some form of isimus, okay? So quid est dulcior, we can do it two ways. Then a pleasant jucundissima vita, and we can use the ablative of comparison, or we can use quam jucundissima in the nominative case, jucundissima vita. Two different ways. Quid est dulcior jucundissima vita, and that is your ablative of comparison, or quid est dulcior quam jucundissima vita, in which case it has to be the same case as what it's comparing it to. What when you're comparing it to what? What is sweeter than a pleasant life? So in that case, it's going to be the nominative. Number 14. Certain men, however, say that death is sweeter than life. Certain say that. We don't need a word for that. This is going to be the accusative subject, and this is going to be the infinitive verb. This is going to be comparative degree of the adjective, and we need to make a choice here. I'm going to choose the ablative. So, certain men, we don't need to say certain men. We can say quidam. Quidam, however, autem. Say, dicit, or dicunt, because it's plural. Say that death, mortem, it's going to be in the accusative case, is the saying, and the ising happens at the same time, so we're going to use the present form of the infinitive. Esse dulcior, because we're going to make it the same, dulciorem, excuse me. Death is dulciorem, sweeter than life. I said I wasn't going to do this. We can say quam vitam, put it in the same case, or just use the comparison vita. Certain men, moreover, say that death is sweeter than life. And this is option 1 and option 2. Quam or ablative comparison. (16) When these three very sure signs had been reported, we sought advice and comfort from the most powerful leader. So when these three very sure signs had been reported, we're going to use the ablative absolute. We sought advice and comfort from the most powerful leader. This is going to be the superlative degree of the adjective. So, had been reported, three signs. What are we going to use for signs? Signis, okay. 3, we're going to use, with these 3, tribus, very sure, certissimus, but we're going to make it ablative, certissimis. These 3 very sure signs had been reported, nuntiatis. Signis tribus certissimus nuntiatis. 3 signs having been reported, we sought. Put that at the end. Petiverunt, just your present perfect. We sought, then what are we going to do? We sought advice. Consilium, because it's the accusative. Ac solacium, from the most powerful, potentissimo, and I didn't leave enough room for it, duce. Let me make this a potentissimo duce. With the 3 signs, with the 3 very sure signs having been announced, comfort and solace, or a plan or advice and solace from the very powerful leader, we sought. Number 17. In that story, the author says that all men seek as happy lives as possible. We know that as happy lives as possible is going to be quam plus the superlative. Notice we have 2 uses of quam plus the in comparison, or quam plus the superlative just means as blank as possible. In that story is a prepositional phrase. The author says that, and then we're going to use the accusative subject, infinitive verb, that men, this is going to be accusative plural masculine, all men seek. This is going to be the present active infinitive, because the seeking takes place at the same time as the saying. As happy lives as possible, quam plus the superlative. So, in that story, the author, auctor, says, dicit. And now our indirect statement starts, omnes, that all men, and we don't need to say omnes viros, you can if you want. They seek, we're going to use the infinitive, petere, they seek as happy lives as possible. Lives, quam felicissimas. In that story, the author says that all men seek lives as happy as possible. And number 18, light is brighter, refers to light, than the other, quam or ablative. So this light, hic, hike, lux, est, is brighter. What do you want to use for brighter? Clarior. Est sempre. Let me change that. Est semper. I said sempre, that's Italian. Semper clarior quam altera. That's fine. This light is always brighter than the other. And next we'll move on to the sententia antiqui. Sententia antiqui. Segnectus est loquacior. The old man is more talkative. This is your comparative degree of the adjective, and it agrees with the old man. The old man is more talkative. Number 2, tua consilia omnia nobis clariora sunt quam lux. Your plans, all your plans, tua consilia omnia, all your plans sunt are clariora, comparative degree of the adjective, comparative degree, and agrees with consilia. All your plans are more clear to us than the light. I know what you've got planned. It's more clear than the light. All your plans are more clear to us than the light. Number 3, quaedam remedia guariora sunt quam ipsa pericula. Certain remedia, certain cures. This is your nominative, plural, neuter. Certain cures are guariora, more serious, quam ipsa pericula, than the dangers themselves. Certain cures are more dangerous, are more serious than certain remedies are more serious than the dangers themselves. Number 4, eo die viros fortissimos atque amantissimos republicae ad me vocavi. On that day, I just, know what that is. On that day, eo die, very brave men and very loving. Republicae, this is your dative, singular feminine, loving to the republic, for the republic, vocavi. I called to me. On that day, I called the bravest men and most loving to the republic. Those that, I called them to me. I think the Romans are going to use participles where we use phrases, and the bravest and those who love the republic most, I think would be a more natural way of translating that in English. for the purposes of this class, and given that we're just learning this topic, stick with the literal, most loving to. Now, notice that this is the participle, but it still uses the participles are adjectives. Okay? Participles are adjectives, and so this is the superlative degree. Most loving to the Republic. Qui imperia libens accepit, partem acerbissimam servitutis vitat. He who receives imperia, power freely, partem, he avoids. Okay? He avoids the part. What kind of part? Acerbissimum, the bitterest part of slavery. It's one of those sentences I don't know enough about the background, and I haven't honestly thought enough about it. Just focus on the superlatives here. He avoids the very bitter or the bitterest part of slavery. Number 6, jucundissima dona, ut aunt, semper sunt ea quae auctor ipse cara facet. A lot going on here, isn't there? The most pleasing gifts, as they say. This is just a throwaway phrase, as they say. So gifts are those which the author himself makes cara, dear, accusative, plural, neuter, and it modifies gifts. The most pleasing gifts, as they say, are always those which the maker himself makes dear. Number 7, beatus sapiensque vir forum vitat, et superba limina potentiorum quia. The man avoids the forum. What kind of man? A fortunate and wise man. A fortunate and wise man avoids the forum, and what else? And the thresholds, the limina, the very proud thresholds of the rather powerful or the more powerful citizens. You know, thresholds is not a word we use often. The doorways. In other words, a fortunate and wise man avoids the forum. He stays out of politics, and he doesn't go visiting the houses. Avoids the thresholds of the more powerful citizens. Number 8, quid est turpius quam ab aliquo illudi? What is more shameful than illudi? Present passive infinitive. Then to be deceived, and now this makes sense, the ab aliquo, the ablative of personal agent, very common with the passive voice. What is more shameful than to be deceived by someone? Number 9, quid enim est stultius, quam incerta pro certis habere, falsa pro veris. For what is more foolish than to have uncertain things for certain things, falsehoods for truth. Or not for, but maybe in place of. For what is more foolish than to have uncertain things in place of certain things, and falsehood for truths. Saepe mihi dicis, carissime amicae, scribe aliquid magnum desidiosissimus homo es. Often you say, this is often to me, you say, dear friend. This is the vocative case. We don't talk about that much, doesn't come up much. The E is when you're addressing your friend. Write something big. Okay, scribe, the imperative. Write something great. Homo es, you are a man. What kind of man? Desidiosissimus. Very lazy. 11. Verba currunt. At manus notari est velacior illis. Non lingua mea, sed manus eius laborum perficit. Words run, but the hand of the notator, of the writer is swifter than those words. Words run, but the hand of the writer is swifter than those. Not my tongue, non lingua mea, but the hand of him, his hand, finishes the labor. Words run, but the hand of the writer is swifter than those. Not my words, but his hand finishes the work. Number 12. Multiputant res bellicas graviores esse quam res urbanus, sed haec sententiae mutanda est, nam multae res urbanae sunt graviores clarioresque quam bellicae. So many people think that, there we go, the rest of this is an indirect statement, that not the rest of the sentence, because we have the colon here, that war things are graviores. This is your comparative degree. That the things of war, bellicos, are more serious than civic affairs, quam res urbana. But now we're back into the regular statement. But this feeling, mutanda est, must be changed. 4. Multi-res urbanae, for many civic affairs, many civic items, are more serious, more weighty, and more famous than war things. I know, it's quite a difficult sentence, because we're using this res bellicos, affairs of war, versus res urbana, affairs of the city matters, city politics. So many people think that war things, matters of war, are more serious, more weighty than civic matters. But this feeling, this opinion must be changed. For many civic matters are sunt graviores, more serious, and frankly more famous, frankly isn't in there, and more famous than affairs of war. And finally, number 13, invitatus ad caenam, manu sinistra lintea negligentiorum sustulisti, hoc salsum esse putas, res sordidissima est, itaque mihi lentium remite. Very famous Roman poem, Roman epic about stealing, going to a friend's house and stealing the very fine linens, the very fine napkins. Ooh, these are very nice napkins. I'm going to pocket them. Invited to dinner, manu sinistra, with your left hand, you took away, sustulisti, you bore off the napkins, the linens, the napkins, of those not being aware, of those being negligent, but not in a negligent as in faulted, you know what I mean? It's of those just simply not being aware. So invited to dinner, you snatched, you took off with your left hand the napkins of the people who weren't aware. Hoc salsum esse putas, you think this is safe, clever, you think this is good, this is smart, it's clever. This is a very sordid thing. Res sordidissima est. And so, give me back the napkin. That's it.